Welcome to the Onyx Path news well, let's be honest, it's been a bit of a shitty week. I know starting off with bad language it isn't really how you're supposed to start the news, but it's not the best week in the world for the world, is it? And so I was actually struggling a little. I was thinking, is it too trite to go out with a live broadcast and get all excited about games when there's so many other things going on right now that are distinctly unfun? And obviously, you can't just stop everything when anything's going on in the world, when there's war, when horrible laws are being enacted. You do have to go on with things. Hello, Elaine, and we will continue making games. And we will continue selling games, and hopefully, you will continue buying them, and hopefully, you will continue enjoying them. Obviously, I'm not going to dwell too much on the state of the world in this. This is the Onyx Path news. This isn't the news of the world. But I will say that if there is anyone watching this, I mean, I'm sure you've got more pressing things on your mind, but if there is anyone watching this who is out in Ukraine right now, solidarity with you. Stay safe, as safe as you can. And I hope that this is over sooner rather than later. So, onto the games. So, let's talk a little about our Onyx Path 10th anniversary sale. We have a sale going on every single week. We are putting a different game up on sale. It's been this month has been a very busy month for sales because we had Vampire at the beginning of February. Then we had Werewolf, I think. That makes sense. Then we had Wraith and Changeling. And now we've got Mage the Ascension 20th Anniversary Edition, which next to Vampire is our more prolific World of Darkness line for 20th Anniversary Edition. There are a lot of books in that sale. Now, I will say that although there are a lot of books in that sale, 90% off the marked price, which is, pretty good. In fact, it's pretty excellent. There are a couple of books that aren't, and I'll just give you a quick reason for why. Technocracy Reloaded isn't in that sale yet because we are still distributing the traditionally printed versions of that book to the backers of the Kickstarter for that book. Therefore, it wouldn't really feel right to start selling that for 10% of its regular cost when people who back the Kickstarter haven't received a copy yet. Hopefully you understand. The other one is Rich Bastard's Guide to Magic. We only released that 3 weeks ago, I think, at time of recording. So again, we're not going to knock the price down to 10% this quickly. If we did, there'll be a lot of people who bought it over the preceding 3 weeks who might be thinking a little like we have screwed them out of some money. So with that said, there is still an awful lot of 20th anniversary Mage product that you can buy at 90% off. How do you do that? The Mage core book, Truth Beyond Paradox, I believe Book of the Fallen is in there as well, which is one I'm very fond of in the way it's written. We've got a lot of products out there, so do check the link. It is linked below, as it always is, and take advantage of that sale. Now, what else? Well, this week we released Trinity Continuum Polyphemus, I would pronounce it. I'm Polyphemus, it could be. This is a Tasty Bits supplement for the Trinity Continuum that enables you to play members of a secret organization that is one part the SCP. I very much identify SCP connections here. And thank you very much, Ian, for throwing in there that our Mage revised books are also in the sale. He's listed them in the chat, so please do check the chat there. But yes, Polyphemus enables you to play members of a new organization. It's a really fantastic one. It's basically within a living library complex that dates back to the 1970s and never seems to age or change in its interior. I was having a read through it not long ago. It was really firing up the synapses of imagination. It's a really reasonably cost product, like all of our Tasty Bits are. It's just a couple of dollars. And honestly, I think it's worth checking out if you are inspired by such things as the X-Files, by such things as SCP, by the Stanley Parable as well, because it has that sort of bureaucratic horror to it. I recommend you take a look. It is again linked below. And what else do we have released this week? Well, we also had Scion on Roll20. That's right, Scion has been added to Roll20 in character sheet and etc. form. You can find a link to that below. It's our aim to get all of our in-house products on Roll20 and other virtual tabletops as time goes on. So that will include books, character sheets, cards where necessary, counters, maps, all kinds of things, because we understand people are playing a lot of virtual games these days, and especially they were during the pandemic, which, arguably still going on. So if you are an online gamer, then take advantage. Use the fact that there's the Scion product is now on Roll20, and use those tools. Give us your feedback. Let us know how they're playing out for you. And yeah, actually, Michaela points out very laundry files as well. I haven't thought of the laundry for a long time, but I agree. It's got some lovely laundry feel to it. So what else? Well, we did announce this week that our next crowdfunding campaign will be They Came From Classified and They Came From the Cyclops' Cave. It's a double feature, much as Masks of the Mythos and Scion Dragon were a double feature Kickstarter. It was two different books appealing to potentially two different audiences. We packaged it together on Kickstarter. It did very well. We're thinking of doing the same thing for They Came From Classified, They Came From the Cyclops' Cave. We're very excited for this one. We've got lots of plans for that Kickstarter. We think it's going to be on Kickstarter. I keep saying it. I should say crowdfunding. You never know. You never know what might change, but likelihood is it will be on there. And yeah, very much looking forward to that one, of course. I developed They Came From Classified, co-developed with Michaela in the chat there. They Came From the Cyclops' Cave. The writers on both books did a tremendous job, and the art that has come in for both is just sublime. Wait until you see the full pages from these two books. You'll be blown away. And I see Pavel has asked a question. All those sales are incredibly wonderful. I added so many great books to my collection. Only problem is how to find enough time to read and play them all. Well, I recommend, depending on where you are in the world right now, hunkering down in a bunker underground and just spending a lot of time with your books. Maybe step out when the crisis blows over. Otherwise, fit it around. And what I recommend with all of these books is don't necessarily feel you have to read them from beginning to end. A lot of these books are a bit encyclopedic. You can pick the bits you want, you can leave the bits you don't, and then you can revisit it later. All these books behind me, I very rarely read them from A to Z. Most of the time it's, well, I'm interested in that, but I'm going to take a character from here, a monster from there, a story hook from there, and then I'll come back to it another time. So, we will have a 90% off. No, we don't need 90% off time, Ian, because we already don't have enough time. That's the problem. So what else? Well, I would be remiss if I didn't mention again that last week we released The Longest Night, which was our jump start for Ghost Hunters. And honestly, if you are just getting into the world of darkness, I know there are still some of you out there, or into Wraith the Oblivion, The Longest Night is a brilliant jumping off point. It's as jumping off, it's a jump start. It is a opening story chronicle that you can play in one night if you see fit, with a group of players, and it introduces them to the Ghost Hunters, which are in the Ghost Hunters book, and Wraith, which is, of course, in Wraith the Oblivion. It's got a lovely marriage of concepts there, which I think does very well together. And also in recent, the chat has now gone out of control. But what I will also say is this week, if you haven't been following it on the Onyx Pathcast, this entire month, in fact, we have been doing episodes dedicated to the different World of Darkness games. We have done 2 Mage the Ascension episodes, largely because of the Law of the Traditions Kickstarter, though, of course, we also touch on Technocracy Reloaded, Victorian Mage. We did a Werewolf featured episode, which I think goes out today, if it isn't already released. And last week was Vampire 20 with myself, Neil Raymond Price, and Eddie, where we got to reminisce about working on Beckett's Jihad Diary, which I think you will agree is the best V20 book that was ever made. Certainly I think so. Maybe even the best vampire book ever made in general. You know what? I'll go for that. So, What else do we have? Well, I will do my usual call to arms, which is if you have bought any of our books recently, and Pavel, I know you have because you said you have, then do take the time to go through on Drive-Thru RPG, giving them a star rating. I understand you may not have enough time to give a review, and that's absolutely fine. I love a review, but you don't have to give a review. But what you could do, and what will take you barely any time at all, is click on the number of stars you think this book warrants. It genuinely helps these books get seen, and it encourages people to buy them, especially if it's something you've recently purchased and recently looked through, like They Came from Camp Murder Lake, the Dawn novella for Trinity Continuum, which we also released last week, a fantastic novel there. And whenever we release a new product, there is always the risk that we will release it, and because we release something every single week, that it will quickly fall off the radar. The way to avoid that is when you, the customers, sing these products' praises. There's only so much singing we can do before people think, yeah, you know what, they're really ramming it down our throats. But when you do it, it means a lot more. And if all that translates into is star ratings on Drive-Thru RPG, then we appreciate that. If it turns into interviews on podcasts, deep dives, videos, reviews, blogs, whatever else, however else you want to advertise these books, presents, and say how wonderful you think they are, we appreciate that too, even more. In short, please do support us, not just by buying our books, but also by rating and reviewing them. It does help. And yeah, so what else do we have to cover? I told myself I would keep this episode pretty short, and I think I'm going to stick to that. Because, as I said at the beginning of the episode, there is a lot going on in the world right now. It is very distracting, and for good reason. It's not something that we should, I wish this would fade away. We all like to keep on top of what's going on in the world right now. And I'm not trying to be vague, but I'm also not trying to trivialize things. And so I don't want to speak too much about how fantastic role-playing games are, even though, we love them, because there are also tragedies going on right now, as there always are, but right now it seems incredibly prescient. And not even prescient, that's the wrong word. See, I'm clearly rattled. I'm usually much better with my vocabulary than that. So I would say thank you very, very much for watching. If you have any questions about any products that I've not covered in this week's Onyx Path news, please do go over to the Onyx Path blog or go on the Onyx Path Discord. Leave a comment on one or the other. If you're not a member of the Discord, there's a link below so that you can join it. And we love for you to join in there. We've got thousands of people on there, and they love talking about our games. There's a channel dedicated to every single one. And if you can, do your best to stay safe during this very troublesome time in the world, no matter where you are, but especially if you're in a country, let's say Ukraine. It's a very stressful time right now, and I think a lot of us don't really know which way to look and how to act. And as I said, and I know I keep laboring this point, coming on camera to advertise games right now seems trivial, but at the same time, we all end up, we can't all just live in stasis waiting for something to resolve. We just have to hope that it does. We have to help it to do so in whatever way we can, with donations, with support, with amplifying messages. And again, I don't want to make this a big diatribe, too political. This is the Onyx Path channel, but nevertheless, stay safe, do what you can to help others who need it, and I will see you next week for another episode of the Onyx Path News. Thank you very much for watching.